know what the end is.
There is like a company that makes like these bolas that you could like shoot at someone running away from you and it like wraps them up.
Yeah, that's the Bola Wrap by Wrap Technologies.
Yeah.
When you look at law enforcement, clearly more money is needed to buy less lethal enforcement types of tools like the Bola, what they call the Bola Wrap.
Right.
There are alternative tooling methods in which they can adopt within the Atlanta Police Department. Instead of having to use the taser, they can shoot the Bola Wrap, and it basically wraps around the ankles, and it really stops them in their place.
It is excellent. Anytime that you can have a more humane response to someone in crisis, it's not only good for the department, it's good for society.
This should be the first level of restraint before you go to a baton, before you go to a taser, before you go to your firearm.
We are at a time now of real challenge in our community and in our country. This is a device that we are looking at, and just another tool that we are looking at in the Buffalo Police Department to make our policing model safer for the community and for our police officers.
Anytime that you can come up with technology that reduces the amount of escalation of force, it's always a positive. So I'm excited to hear more about this and see if we can implement it.
I legitimately believe the device you have has the capacity to save lives and to increase the humanity when it comes to how law enforcement professionals deal with and view the people they're policing. You and Bola Wrap are really on the cutting edge of giving communities what we need and what we deserve in our law enforcement professionals. And that is the capacity to address a criminal or someone suspected of a crime, but in a way that preserves life and preserves humanity. And that's what I think policing needs most in America today.
Good afternoon and welcome to Wrap Technologies' third quarter 2020 conference call. My name is Paul Manley, and I'm Vice President of Investor Relations at Wrap. Like we did last quarter, we will be incorporating video highlights into our multimedia presentation. Your feedback was overwhelmingly positive last quarter, and we are happy to continue this format. We are looking to be cutting edge and forward-thinking in everything we do at Wrap, and having an interactive earnings call is another example of this. Joining me on today's call are Tom Smith, our Interim Chief Executive Officer, and Jim Barnes, our Chief Financial Officer. Following our prepared remarks, we will have a Q&A session. You may ask a question at any time during the call. To do so, use the Q&A tab on the bottom of your screen, but do not use the chat button, as we will not be monitoring this section during the call. Certain statements made during the call today constitute forward-looking statements made pursuant to and within the meaning of the safe harbor provisions of the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995 as amended. Such forward-looking statements are subject to both known and unknown risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially from such statements. Those risks and uncertainties are described in our earnings press release issued earlier today and in our filings with the SEC. The forward-looking statements made today are as of the date of this call, and we do not undertake any obligation to update these forward-looking statements. With that, please let me turn the call to Tom Smith.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Before we go into our quarterly results, I'd like to address a couple of important items right away. First off, on behalf of the entire Wrap team, we wish health and safety to everyone connected with our company. In particular, our customer base is comprised of police agencies across the globe. With COVID and the level of widespread demonstrations and rioting they have faced in 2020, this year has been remarkable. We have seen a significant uptick in the level of time and attention our customer prospects give us to learn how the Bola Wrap can help them do their jobs more efficiently and safely. Regarding COVID, like all other companies, we continue to navigate the pandemic as well as possible. Our company has remained healthy, and I am proud to note that due to all of the actions we have taken to date, we have had limited instances of exposure within any of our facilities. The most significant COVID-related setback we have had is limitation in domestic and international travel. Technology is a helpful alternative and has kept us moving forward, but there is nothing like experiencing an in-person wrap to understand how good our product is and to deliver product demonstrations and sales calls in person. We do expect these travel headwinds to continue for the foreseeable future, but hopefully dissipate through 2021. Next, as you know, I have been named interim CEO. I want to thank our executive chairman, Scott Cohen, and the rest of the board for their trust in giving me the opportunity to lead our company. My excitement starts and finishes with WRAP. We are a special company that finds itself at a very pivotal time in law enforcement history. The discussion around use of force is at an all-time high around the world. The level of discussion from all constituents regarding policing procedures is also at an all-time high. Many of you have heard me say this often. We are in the right place at the right time with the perfect product to fill a gap in how police handle many different situations. We must seize this moment. Police presence is absolutely needed in our communities. As discussions continue around police reform or even defunding police, we believe that WRAP is an integral part of the response. It is easy to point out problems, but WRAP is working on the solutions. These discussions will lead to better training and better tools like the BOLA wrap. As it relates to our business, our strategy is sound and becomes more proven with each passing month. We had our first quarter with over $1 million in sales, a very exciting milestone. We also have an incredibly strong balance sheet with over $45 million in cash equivalents, and short-term investments, and minimal long-term debt. We are moving hard and fast to grow the market of our technology. That will not change. I will continue to devote a considerable amount of my time to driving our sales force in the U.S. as well as internationally. We will continue to invest in our sales engine. We have also recently invested in growing our research and development team. We want to drive constant improvement in the BOLA wrap while discovering incremental ways to bolster our product suite. We have a great team in place and are doing a great job of keeping us ahead of the game as it relates to our product development. Accelerate and scale are two initiatives we think about every day. Near term, we are staying the course. We are working hard to accelerate growth and to scale our operations. This takes finesse and balance. We feel good about where we stand on both fronts. To ensure this continues, one of my near-term objectives is to bolster our operations team so we maintain our strong track record of execution. We are making these investments to further position our company for success against our mission. We want to see remote restraint become standard for every police officer in the world. We believe many daily incidents can be handled without force, especially when dealing with a person in crisis. The total addressable market is significant. And as we did by sponsoring National Faith in Blue Weekend earlier this month, we can enhance conversations between community and law enforcement. This directly supports our mission. The National Faith in Blue Weekend was a very successful program between faith-based organizations and law enforcement coming together through various activities and planned events in communities across the country. I would like to share with you one of the videos we recently released from the St. Cloud Police Department in Florida. In this body cam video, a mother has called the police as her adult male son is suicidal and has indicated to her that he wants to be shot by the police. Watch as the officers de-escalate the situation using the BOLA wrap, communicate, and take quick action to safely end this potentially deadly outcome. When we come back, Jim will provide you with some financial details from our third quarter.
Is this your son?
Yes, he broke up with a girlfriend.
Okay.
Ran him with a cop.
Who's that next to him?
His brother.
Okay. Call his brother over here for me, please. If things escalate, we have a super non-lethal compliant thing that we can
I'm telling him has a thing for cops. I'm letting you know he wants to die tonight.
Okay, well, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let him do that, okay? So what's going on, bud? Talk to me, man. What's going through your mind? You got some issues with relationships or what? We're just trying to find out how we can rectify the situation, how we can get you the help that you need, how we can get you home, whatever the case may be.
None about your business. We'll be all right.
I got you, man, but we can't mind our business when you're in someone else's property and your family's concerned about you and they're calling us. Are you looking to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else?
No, nobody else.
Okay, so you're looking to hurt yourself.
Yeah, come on, talk to them. They're here to help you.
Your hands are all bloody, man. What happened?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I can see your knuckles. They're all bloody. I'm just trying to find out what's going on.
Calm down. You're very respectful. Come on.
I'm fine.
Has he made any threats on himself or anything like that?
I'm telling you.
Has he made any threats on himself?
Cooperate.
Okay.
Nothing to do with it. Show us that you're
Come on, Brandon.
I'm fine.
Please.
All right, can we start by leaving this person's driveway?
And you start there.
All right, cool. Let's start there.
Just stand right here, bud. There you go. Perfect. Stop. Don't go anywhere, Brandon. Don't do that. Wrap. Get down. Relax.
Brandon, put your hands behind your back, okay, brother? Put your hands behind your back. Don't want to hurt you, Brandon.
You're fine.
Put your hands behind your back.
There's nothing on me.
You're fine.
That's fine.
Just put your hand behind your back.
And your stomach.
Thank you. There we go, bud.
Relax. Just like that. Just like that, sir. Just like that.
That wasn't a gunshot. That was just a wrap, okay? It's a non-lethal Kevlar wrap to control him. That's all it is.
Yes.
You really did, man. I promise you.
And I was 3 weeks from accident learning. And so, it's like, how do I even handle this, you know?
There's no easy way.
Freaking wrecked over it.
I got you.
Good afternoon. Our detailed operating results can be found in the earnings press release issued today and on our Form 10-Q filed a short time ago. My thanks to our finance team to help complete our financial reporting process as timely as we do. Let me now highlight a few financial details. Our revenues for Q3 were a record $1,007,000. For the first 9 months, revenues were $2,529,000, representing a 467% increase from the same period of 2019. COVID-19 restrictions substantially curtailed sales in April and May, and we believe this negatively impacted our sales this year. Our gross margin in Q3 was in line with the immediately preceding quarter at 32%. As we are still growing our business and scaling production, historic margins should not be relied upon as an indicator of future margins. Like most companies, COVID has made it very challenging to accurately forecast many of our line items near term, especially gross margin. However, based on recent product changes and new manufacturing initiatives, we believe that our target of over 40% margins will soon be achievable. Our balance sheet remains exceptionally strong. 91% of our total assets of $49 million is comprised of cash equivalents, and short-term investments. Together, we will refer to these all as cash on this webcast. We grew this cash balance from $35.4 million at the end of the second quarter to $45.1 million at the end of the third quarter. The increase was primarily due to $2.7 million of warrants exercised in the third quarter, providing gross proceeds of $14.2 million. So far in October, we have received $359,000 from warrant exercises. We have some warrants that expire tomorrow, so there is a possibility that we may generate additional cash yet this month. The new item on the balance sheet in the third quarter was our cash and short-term investments. We are taking a conservative approach with these securities and believe it is prudent to have our outstanding cash do some work for us, even though we are in a very low interest rate environment. Near term, we expect our available cash to support the two initiatives Tom mentioned earlier, accelerate and scale our growth. Specifically, we plan to grow our sales team to accelerate growth, invest engineering resources in new products, and scale manufacturing. At this stage, we have avoided debt. However, as a reminder, we did take out a $415,000 loan as part of the Payroll Protection Program back in May. We believe we used 100% of the proceeds for eligible purposes as outlined by the SBA, mostly for payroll. Accordingly, in early October, we filed an application for forgiveness of this loan. There is no assurances this forgiveness will be granted. As a co-founder of WRAP, it has been very exciting to witness our progress since day one. I am especially proud to see that the BolaWrap product has shipped to over 35 countries worldwide to date, and also see its real-time use by exceptional line officers, to de-escalate encounters. Tom has been instrumental in helping us attract an exceptional team of sales and engineering professionals that we believe will be key to our growth and continued success. In conclusion, we are pleased with our exceptionally strong balance sheet and our financial performance, especially in light of the COVID and civil unrest headwinds. With that, I will turn the webcast back to Tom.
Thank you, Jim, and nice work to you and your team. At this point, I'd like to give you a business review of the third quarter as we had several noteworthy accomplishments. Again, our first quarter with over $1 million in revenue and over $45 million in cash and equivalents on the balance sheet. We have trained over 100 agencies just in the third quarter. We grew from over 100 agencies to now over 240 agencies with the Bowler Wrap and shipped to 35 countries, which is up from 29 in Q2. We now have 1,100 officers at over 300 agencies certified to train their departments. Trained officers within agencies is a top precursor to sales activities for us. This training time is a sign of investment from the agency, as well as now having a subject matter expert from the department as they implement our technology. During the quarter, the Los Angeles Police Department provided a publicly available update on their test and evaluation program. We have a very good relationship with the agency and continue to work closely with LAPD as their request to continue their program was unanimously approved and reported by the LA Times without change. As we have stated before, we do not expect to know the next steps until the trial ends in 2021. The use of the Bowler Wrap comes with several facets. First, there's a verbal warning from the officer that the Bowler Wrap could be used. Next is a green line laser compliance resulting from the subject seeing the line laser on them and no longer resisting. This is very similar to the red dot compliance from a CEW being pointed but not fired. When the Bowler Wrap is discharged, along with the tether wrapping around the subject, the sound from the Bowler Wrap is distracting and startling, giving the officers a window of opportunity to detain the subject. This can include a complete or partial wrap of the subject. Use of force experts will tell you that if a situation is resolved without force or injury, that is a success. In the dozens of field uses we are aware of, we have seen each of these instances ending the situation. Proper training of the Bowler Wrap is critical to the success in the field, including before, during, and after the use. A short time ago, we played the video of the apprehension of the suicidal man in Florida for you. This is a great example of using our product effectively. Our thanks again to the St. Cloud Police Department for allowing us to use this body cam footage. Had the officer waited, a myriad of different outcomes could have occurred, all of which may have resulted in escalation, force, injury, or even death. The officer did not let him have the chance, and once in custody, the subject's attitude changed, allowing the officers to get him the needed help. Earlier, I provided some key metrics that show our progress with the various stages we are in with police agencies to become users of our products. I'd like to take a second to provide some more color on our overall market opportunity and why we are so excited. Again, there are 18,000 police agencies in the United States. As we have said, the larger the agency, the longer time it takes from introduction to order fulfillment. Law enforcement needs to balance budget availability, pilot programs, officer training, and other requisites. As I mentioned earlier, this summer, many agencies were dealing with demonstrations and protests across the United States, including some of the cities which we are active, such as Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Cincinnati, and Houston. We are at various stages of discussion with each of these agencies and many more. We know there is a strong correlation between the size of the agency and how fast that initial order can be placed. The smaller the agency, the quicker the decision making. The majority of our initial orders fulfilled to date are from these smaller agencies where they have an easier time to place orders. We have had instances where a 10-officer agency will order Bowler Wraps and cartridges at an initial demonstration. This is the exception, certainly not the rule, but it is a good example of how clear our value proposition is. Larger cities, for instance, those greater than 1 million people protected, can take a year or longer. However, already in October, we are seeing an increase on new and repeat orders from the domestic market for Bowler Wrap products and accessories. Compared to the domestic market, The international market is 12 times larger. During the next 12 to 24 months, we expect the international market is going to continue to be the majority of our business. International is an important part of our growth plan, and we expect to continue to expand and scale our presence in the 35 countries, as well as explore new opportunities. Before we move to question and answer, I want to thank our stakeholders for your continued support. I also want to thank all of my fellow WRAP colleagues. Thank you for everything you do to help us serve police agencies around the world. With my comments related to our financial performance completed, I invite you now to watch our third quarter highlight video. These highlights are more examples of the traction we are getting with the BOLA wrap, and we are very proud of each and every instance of success that we have earned. After this short video, Paul will come back to moderate our question and answer session with Jim and myself.
Well, ask any law enforcement officer. Arresting somebody can be dangerous.
Police shootings sparking protests and calls for racial justice nationwide.
This is pretty cool looking. It's called a BOLA wrap.
BOLA wrap?
BOLA wrap.
BOLA wrap.
BOLA wrap. And it's designed to de-escalate a hostile situation without much force.
Now, some pretty big police departments across the country actually already use the BOLA wrap, including the Los Angeles Police Department and the one in Sacramento.
Around 180 cities in the United States and 27 countries around the world.
BOLA wrap, a new device purchased by Beaufort Police for its officers.
The BOLA wrap is now being used by the LaGrange Police Department.
Cincinnati police are rolling out new non-lethal technology to catch suspects.
Lieutenant Colonel Adam Lee, okay, buying enough for each DART member so far.
Do you believe it's effective? Very effective.
Police in Landover Hills have a new option to help apprehend someone without using force.
This new tool will not only protect police, but help protect the community they serve.
3, 2, 1.
Put your hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
Deputies deployed the BOLA wrap restraint device. The driver was then taken into custody.
Wrap.
We were extremely excited to work with Reverend Hutchins and all of the law enforcement agencies that are here today.
I really hope you enjoyed that video as we now move to the question and answers with Tom and Jim. Thanks to everyone who have already submitted a question. We have lots of great questions and lots of similar questions. As a reminder, if you'd like to submit a question, please submit it on the Q&A portal, and this is different from the chat portal. Our first questions will come from John Hickman, our analyst from Ladenburg Thalmann. John, go ahead.
Hi, this first question's for Tom. Could you give us a little more detail about the CEO change?
Sure. So obviously there's been a lot of attention for us in the Washington, D.C. area, and in conversations with Mark and the board, we felt it was time for Mark to move to the Chief Government Affairs Officer role and focus really in the D.C. area. And with my background, there's nobody better to resume and be the interim CEO as we work on focusing on manufacturing efficiencies and deliver. So it was done again where Mark's going to be working with us in the lobbying side, and I'm going to be focusing on the sales and the operations side of the company.
I thought one of Mark's strengths was the manufacturing and engineering side. Are you still going to make use of that?
Yes, we have. Mark's done a lot of implementation on our manufacturing efficiencies, but again, right now we felt it was optimal with what's going on in this country with the political environment, with the focus at the national level, pretty much every level. I mean, look at what's going on in Philadelphia, that it was with his White House fellowship background, with his military connections. There's not very many White House fellows that are running around out there. So, again, in consultation with him, the board, myself, we felt that this was the right focus for the company to move Mark to that role, and for me to focus on the manufacturing efficiency enhancements that he's doing and the team that he's built and I will continue to build, and the engineering team that we have brought in as well.
Okay, couple other quick questions. How many agencies did you say are using the device?
So right now we're over 245 agencies that are using it. That's up from, I believe, around 180 last quarter. So that's a great jump. And we were up to 35 countries from 29 last quarter. And again, I want to emphasize that's with COVID and no international travel. So very excited about where we're continuing to see growth. And even in October, again, another uptick even in our domestic sales that we'll be talking about very soon.
And then I didn't quite catch this comment, but you said that you were seeing increases in new and recurring and replacement shipments. What time period did you say that was?
Yeah, so we saw that through the quarter, and we're continuing to see that in October, where we're seeing agencies come back with multiple orders. We're seeing it on the international front and the domestic front. So we're seeing growth and continued expansion with our current customers, as well as with us adding new customers.
Okay, so is there a way for you guys to track use? You just are kind of at the mercy of the agencies?
Well, we work very closely with our distributors and with the agencies. So there's a lot of communication that goes back and forth. It's a complex process, even for a small agency, but obviously a larger agency, it's even more complex between mayor, city council, commissions, all those facets that come through there. So, we get a lot of questions about the ratio of the cartridges to the devices. And I will tell you our recommendation, minimum recommendation when they're looking at getting started is for 6 cartridges per device. And where that comes from is that the officer will use at least 2 in their training. They'll typically carry 3 in the field, meaning 1 in the device and a holster with 2 extra. And then they have an extra cartridge to use for their recurrent training. So as we look at the opportunities as it goes forward, obviously those will change because they'll get skewed with something like the Indonesia order that came in with an extremely large order for cartridges right out of the gate. But as we get into 2021, next year, we're going to be able to get that more aligned to be able to give you more clarity. But right now, that's kind of the minimum, is kind of that 6-to-1 as they get started. And obviously, we're seeing it higher than that as well.
Okay, one last question for me. There was a pretty significant jump in operating expenses from Q2 to Q3. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. We've continued to invest in our sales operations, our manufacturing operations, our engineering, and just in continuing to invest in the company. We did some voluntary upgrades that was an expense to enhance the product, even some of them that were in the field that we took and wanted to do the right thing and get those things upgraded. So, again, we've got an incredibly strong balance sheet, and that affords us the ability to continue to invest and invest well in the company so that we're making sure that we're making the right steps. And again, very exciting for our first quarter to have over $1 million in revenue. And again, the response we're getting from the market, even already in October, has been extremely positive.
Should we expect similar expansion in OpEx for the next couple of quarters?
I think you will see that. I think, we've continued to build our engineering team. We had a lot of engineers during this quarter. We're going to, obviously, with Mark focusing on government affairs, we're going to bring in some more operations personnel. I'm hoping at some point COVID's going to allow us to really start traveling internationally again. We're looking at some international expansion already with our own personnel. So we're very excited about where we're going, and that I don't think we want to sit and hold back on those investments, because now is the time to seize the moment, go after this market, continue to see it. Again, first quarter with $1 million in revenue. So we're going to continue to use that war chest that we have to make the right investments to grow the company.
Okay, thanks. That's it for me.
All right, John, thank you very much for those great questions and your support. Our next questions will be from Greg Gibbous from Northland Capital Markets. Greg, go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Thanks for taking the questions, and congrats on their record sales again. From what you previously shared, it sounds like a lot of your discussions with the LAPD continue to go very well. with, I guess, the department recently extending that trial not too long ago, do you think that there's a concern maybe that the LAPD would potentially extend that trial again, just given the number of limited uses during the pandemic? And I guess, is there anything else you can maybe share in terms of feedback from the LAPD?
Yeah, great question. And obviously it's gotten a lot of attention around that particular agency. But, you know, we really, the short answer is we don't know what LAPD is going to do. You know, we were obviously very pleased and excited to see the unanimous vote by the commission to continue doing exactly what they're doing. They made the report public. That's their own data, their own interpretation of that data. We had people there just last week. We're there on a very regular basis, working very, very closely with them. But again, these are unprecedented times with police reform discussions, with the rioting, the protests that are going on. You know, the Dodgers just won the World Series, which caused a lot of protest, you know, a lot of riots in the street. So, you know, the police departments are having to respond to a lot of things that are out of the norm. So I can't tell you one way or the other, but I can tell you we're very comfortable with the progress that we're making with LAPD. We're very comfortable with our relationship, our communications, and we'll continue to support them in any way that they decide. But right now we know they're continuing that trial through early 2021. And again, they even put that out in a press release for us last month. So we've got a great relationship there, and obviously we're very hopeful.
Great. Good to hear. And then I know, you don't have too much data surrounding, customer adoption yet, but you've made it clear that you've increased the number of department demonstrations in the quarter. So I guess I was just wondering if anything has changed maybe in the rate at which departments are making purchases or field trials just following demonstrations.
Yeah, and we referenced that the uptick that we've seen in October has been really exciting. It's even going, better than I thought. And again, with COVID and these police reform, and we have this election that's coming up next week that is really garnering all kinds of attention. And then it's still really a tinderbox out there. I mean, look at what just happened in Philadelphia earlier this week. It's tragic incidents, and then it leads to all kinds of rioting. You know, the Dodgers win the series, they're seeing protests. So it's really, again, unprecedented, but we're very, very pleased, pleased with the growth opportunities we're seeing with the department adoption rates and our demonstrations. I mean, we trained 100 departments in this quarter alone. That means, more officers that are subject matter experts. That means, again, more reorders and those things, and the more new expansions of orders. So, that's a lot. That's more than a department a day during the quarter that was getting trained during the third quarter when, we're seeing things slow down. It's the end of summer, school, nobody knew what was going to happen with school and travel and all those things. So I'm very excited and pleased with the progress we're seeing and can continue to see even already in this short time within the fourth quarter.
Great. And it sounds like, once again, a lot of international sales strength was kind of what you saw. But how has order demand kind of trended domestically? I know it's still kind of a smaller percentage of sales, but, roughly, and maybe this is a tough question, but kind of roughly what percentage of, I guess, domestic police departments do you think you've kind of provided demonstrations for, or maybe at least what inning are we in terms of getting the BolaWrap awareness in front of those departments across the nation?
So it's a real tough guess. I mean, let me give you another way of looking at it. So we've trained roughly 100 agencies during this quarter. I think we're over 300 agencies trained now, and we're over 1,100 instructors trained. And just like LAPD as an example, they trained 1,100 officers. So we, in a very, very rough estimate, figure that we have roughly 10,000 officers have been, exposed or seen the BolaWrap, and that's out of 900,000. So clearly that leaves us with a big opportunity out there. We've done some surveys that we're going to be coming out with data where very few people still know about us. I mean, we're doing a lot of marketing, a lot of effort, but we still have a long way to go on making people aware of our product. But once we do get people aware of the product, the percentage of people that want to see the police using that product soars. And again, we'll be getting that data out very soon. But that was a data we ran across nationally with the urban voters. And again, it's showing we aren't real well known yet, which means there's great opportunity for us. But once people do know us, they really approve of what they see and what they learn about the BolaWrap.
Okay, great. And I guess last one from me, I think we talked about this last quarter, but just to check in here, regarding any potential changes you've noticed from dialogue from customers in the quarter, maybe relative to the last couple of quarters. Has anything changed maybe relating to budget concerns from departments or anything else you picked up on?
I haven't really seen anything on the budget. What I have seen, again, is that uptick where agencies that we were talking to, let's say even a year ago, or attended demonstrations a year ago, they're back out contacting us again. So for me, that's a very, very positive sign. It's back to that blocking and tackling. And quite honestly, there's never been more precedented pressure on police for reform, from all of the protests, from BLM, from all the riots, from the defunding communications. And at the end of the day, police, I've said this before, they're not stalwarts of change. They don't change quickly. And that's why I'm very excited about seeing the trends that I'm seeing, that they continue with the adoption of this. They're going to still need the equipment. We need those police officers in our communities, and they need tools like this. Again, it's the only one out there that doesn't hurt. Somebody had asked us about competition. There is no other competition. We're very well protected with our intellectual property. So very, very happy with where we're at and the trajectory we're on. And I expect that trajectory to continue up and to the right.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
All right. Thank you very much, Greg, for your questions and your support as well. We've had a lot of questions coming in on the Q&A tabs. I've tried to summarize a lot of them. A lot of them are very similar. I'm just going to start off. The first question says here, you have a lot of cash. You have $45 million in the bank. What are your plans, use of cash?
So as I said before, and I don't know if Jim has any comment on it, but I want to see us continue to invest. Not many companies have the balance sheet that we do with very minimal long-term debt. We're going to invest and continue to invest in the business. We're investing in research and development. And that gives us the ability to really go out there and take advantage again of this unprecedented time to seize that moment and get involved in Washington, D.C. Luckily, this election is going to be behind us on Tuesday, so hopefully we can really start to make some more progress there with military, with the federal agencies, and a lot of those grant funds that are required and necessary for law enforcement. We're going to use those dollars wisely. We're going to use them to invest in the right things for the company. And again, that's going to be in the international market as well. So that's a key opportunity for us. It's a majority of our business, as we've said. We expect that to continue to be the majority of our business over the next 12 to 24 months. And that war chest gives us the opportunity to not have to pull back right now, but to continue to march into investing into the market, investing into getting our demos and our trainings and the things that we know are going to grow and lead to the adoption. And again, that's what we're seeing right now in October already. And we'll be putting some information out on that there in the not too distant future.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Another good question. What are some of the biggest pushbacks we have received from police departments, both large and small, as well as some of the international countries?
Well, I think right now, obviously, one of the biggest is COVID. Internationally, they can't travel. You're seeing in Europe spikes, and they're going through shutdowns again. But at the same time, as you saw during our highlight video, they're on television in Spain. We finally got to travel and get down to Colombia recently. We've seen demonstrations in Estonia, of all places. We're continuing to see market progress in Asia, in Europe, in the Middle East. So, I think when you look at the things that are a challenge, it's COVID keeping us from traveling. And then domestically, it's obviously they've got their hands full with the riots and the protests that are going on and trying to sort through all the interest from the community groups, the information that they want to see. I participated recently in a panel in New York where this discussion about, reimagining policing, how do they want to do that? And as I've said then, and I'll say it again, it's easy to point out the problems. WRAP is a company that's focused on the solutions. We're providing tools that are going to make a difference. And as they talk about police reform and less use of force and less injury to suspects, officers, communities, this is a tool that allows them to do that. And as we look at training and implementation of the training and the policies, those are the things that we're going to continue to focus on, continue to invest in. And that's what's going to drive us forward. And that's what I'm going to make sure that we're staying focused on as an organization.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Looks like we might have one for Jim here. Gross margins came in, in the low 32%. What is your near-term and long-term goals for gross margins?
Well, near term, we think we can get above 40%. We have initiatives underway right now to both reduce our labor costs and improve our line efficiency, and also to reduce the cost of materials. So those will drive margins going forward. Our margins are affected a bit by the product mix. cartridges right now have a lower gross margin than devices. We expect that to improve over the next several quarters as well.
Okay, thank you, Jim. I guess maybe on a follow-up to this then, can you break down the sales between devices? Do you break down the sales between devices and cartridges? Also, can you break down the sales between domestic and international?
I think we've spoken a number of times that international business right now is a majority of our sales. We expect that to be the same, as Tom said, in the next 12 to 24 months. We really don't break out that total except at year end, and we'll do that at the end of this fiscal year. And next year we'll look at breaking that out more frequently. The mix between cartridges and devices is also varies quite a bit right now because of our lower sales figures, although we're growing every quarter. And we'll see those numbers break out probably next year as well. But generally it's a little bit higher on devices than cartridges overall, but quarter 3 was a higher cartridge mix because of the Indonesian order.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Here's maybe this one's for Tom. You know, we've said that the international market is 12 times larger than the United States or the domestic market. What's the sales process like domestically versus international? Is the process the same?
No, they're very different processes. Again, here you go to 18,000 chiefs, 18,000 decision makers. That's 18,000 agencies, city councils, and everything else, where when you go overseas, it's typically 1 or 2 agencies for the entire country. Indonesia is our example that we talked about before. It's 340,000 officers in one agency that covers the country. So it's a consolidated decision process, and it does take longer because obviously the dollars are going to be bigger when you're talking about implementation for an agency that's 1/3 the size of the entire U.S. market. And again, so they are very, very different. And they do go through a similar process, though. They go through training. They go through demonstrations. They do have to look at budgets. And again, that's why I said before, the next 12 to 12 months, I expect that to continue to see the international markets being the majority of our business. And again, if you look internationally, typically a lot of those law enforcement officers aren't even armed. So they're looking for a tool like the Bolo Wrap that's going to give them that opportunity to stop somebody because they're facing similar problems. They just maybe handle it a little bit differently, and it's done at a national level rather than a state, local, or even, municipal level here in the United States.
All right. Thank you, Tom. We've had a lot of questions come in about the effects of delivery of orders and, orders coming in and due to the impact of COVID. I guess we've already talked about that a little bit. Is there anything else, Tom or Jim, that you would want to talk about the impact of COVID on our business right now?
I think, again, the impact is just on the international front. We finally got somebody down to Colombia, and I'll tell you, it took quite an effort. You have to get the COVID test within 96 hours of the departure of the flight. The airline at the last minute changed which test they were going to accept to be able to travel. So the first week got scrubbed. We had to go back, redo the test, finally get somebody down there. So it's definitely a challenge. And now you're seeing more lockdowns come on the international travel. And there is, more demand for the product internationally, but those travel headwinds are certainly impacting us, and we're pivoting. We're using technology, we're using Zoom, we're translating all our materials into those foreign languages. But to say that it's not impacting us, I just can't say that. And we are doing the best to make sure that we're getting those agencies to continue to go forward. And I think this is one of the things, if I look back at my insane travel schedule last year to get to 20 plus countries in my first 6 months, that's paying those dividends now because we got great distributors that are trained, that are able to handle this locally and do the demos. You're seeing some of those videos. You saw it in Colombia. You saw it in Estonia. You saw our distributor in Spain go on what is the largest nightly show across the entire country and do the demonstration there with the host. So the things that we're doing, the techniques, the tools that we're implementing are working, and they're working for the distributors. And again, it's those relationships that we've had, the processes that we know, that's what's really going to continue to grow. So I still am optimistic about the international sales and expect it to continue to march forward despite the COVID challenges.
All right. Thanks, Tom. We have a few questions coming in about the class action litigation. Can you give us a couple of the questions? Hey, can you just summarize the status of the class action lawsuit?
Sure. And obviously everyone sees the number of press releases that are coming out every day. And just like you see them on television, if you've had a hernia surgery or if you use Roundup. These guys are out advertising. They have 60 days from when the original class action suit was filed to try and attract personnel to join or customers to join their lawsuit. There's a long way to go on this. We've had obviously conversations with our counsel that this is something that is going to go on for months, if not years. The thing I can say is we don't comment about ongoing litigation. We do find the merits baseless. We are going to defend ourselves vigorously because, again, I just find the merits baseless, and our attorneys are really not going to let us say much more than that. But you will continue to see these press releases come out until sometime in late November when that original time frame expires. Then there's procedural things that happen in the courts and everything else with the attorneys that I'm not privy to. So I rely on them. My focus is on running the business, growing the business, getting the domestic sales to go, continuing the international sales to go. Counsel's going to deal with that. Our insurance is going to deal with that. So while it's something that obviously we have to pay attention to, my focus is going to be on running the business and letting the attorneys focus on dealing with the lawsuits.
We've had a few questions here. Tom, and Jim, are there any additional hires? Obviously, there's a change in the C-suite here. Are there any additional hires in executive management or upper management that you need to fill in the next, upcoming months or quarters?
Good question. I would say not right now. We're obviously going to be looking at areas where we want to continue to focus. I'm very comfortable. Mark and I just talked today, so I'm very comfortable about his continued involvement, even while he's focusing on government affairs. Again, the team that we've got in place, the number of engineers, the number of operations efficiencies that we're continuing to implement. Jim mentioned it earlier, our margin, we're continuing to focus on growing that. So the blocking and tackling right here in our building in Tempe, we're going to continue that. The investments, the balance sheet gives us the opportunity to do that and make sure we're doing the right steps. We don't need to, panic because we've got plenty of financial resources to be able to do this right and continue, again, to focus on growing the business. Domestic, international operations are continuing to go. So I'm very confident in where we're going as an organization.
All right. Thank you, Tom. In the interest of time, I'll do a couple more questions here. And if I don't get to your questions today, please reach out to me. My information will be at the end of the call here. So second to last question, it says, are there any competitive products that are out there? And what kind of patent protection do you have on the BOLO wrap? I guess Tom or Jim, go ahead.
So I'll start, and I mentioned it before. We don't have any competitive products, directly competitive. There's nothing else out there like us in the domestic market, and that's one of the reasons that we really see this. This is the only tool that does not rely on pain compliance. And then Jim's done a great job working with counsel on our patents, so I'll let Jim comment on the patents.
Yeah, we're continuing to file patents almost weekly. We're working with the engineering team. We document everything, and we talk to patent counsel almost daily to keep adding to our patent portfolio, and we're making sure that we cover it worldwide. So we're working very hard to continue to upgrade our patent status on the BOLO wrap and all the improvements that you're going to see over the next 12 months in the device and the cartridges and everything that we're doing with our engineering team. And I'm really excited about the engineering team that Tom has been instrumental in attracting. We have some really talented people on board right now.
All right, both. I guess the question we'll get to today, you currently have just the great BOLO wrap device. Do you have any additional products that you will be rolling out in the future?
Yeah, great question. We talked previously about the Armor. So Wrap Armor is going to be launching our website in the very near future. We're also looking at some other opportunities to utilize our current distribution channels to bring technology to law enforcement. So the company is Wrap Technologies. We are looking at other technologies to work on. So as you've heard numerous times, we our engineering department, we're looking at new opportunities for our current products and for new products as we go forward and new technologies to bring out to law enforcement. So before I turn this back to Paul to close, I just, again, want to say I'm very excited to take the helm. I'm very excited about our opportunity, continue to be motivated every day. I live and breathe Wrap. Domestic, international, I got the chance to do this at TASER. I've seen where we can go with this. And I can believe we're going to do that and more with BOLO wrap in the future. And the team that we're building here is fantastic. And I just couldn't be more excited about where we're at. And again, I appreciate and thank everyone for taking your time with us today. And I'll turn it over to Paul for our closing remarks.
Well, thank you both, Tom and Jim, and to all the WRAP employees that are making this happen. And thank you to everyone who's joined the call today. We've had great attendance, and we look forward to finishing 2020 very strong and keeping this momentum going into 2021. Thank you all for your interest in WRAP Technologies and our solution, and I hope that you and your families stay safe and healthy. Have a great evening.